This is 96.5's Family Worship.
Well, good morning to all our 96.5 Family Worship listeners on this quite different Mother's Day. My name is Lorraine Peffer. I'm usually called Laurie, and I'm a pastor at Ashgrove Baptist Church, also the director of Ashgrove Community Care, a centre for counselling and support. This morning, we're going to celebrate mothers by focusing on some thoughts from Psalm 145. Mother's Day evokes so many memories, doesn't it? There are happy memories, bittersweet ones, and even deeply painful ones. However, today we're celebrating, not by pretending that mothers are perfect, but by giving weight to their positive influence on us. In her book called Captivating, Stacey Eldridge expresses the belief that women are uniquely gifted by God to mother. She says, not all women are mothers, but all women are called to mother. To mother is to nurture, to educate, to rear, to give birth or life to people and things. I was reminded of this several years ago when I did a leadership intensive. We were asked to identify 4 people of importance on our life journey. Instantly, one particular woman came to my mind, Edie, affectionately known as Auntie Edie. Edie was not a biological mother, but she was used by God to birth and nurture the spiritual life of many. She taught religious knowledge at 3 local state schools. She was a Bible class teacher and the first deaconess, which was a paid role at our church. Now, you may recall that in the Old Testament, there was an extraordinary woman named Deborah who called herself a mother in Israel. Possibly she was a biological mother, but we don't know that for sure. However, she was a mother to her nation in the civil and spiritual leadership she exercised towards God's dispirited and defeated people. One of my favourite missionary biographies is that of Mary Slessor, who served in the southern part of Nigeria from the mid-1800s through to 1915. That region was then known as Calabar. Mary never married, yet she was called Ma Akamba, which means the great mother, by the many, many children who loved her. She was also called White Queen of Calabar. She certainly wasn't royalty. She was a petite, passionate and sometimes fiery redhead from the slums of Aberdeen, Scotland. She was given this honorific title because of her love for the people and the way she fought for justice. She especially fought to abolish the practice of the infanticide of twins. But just for a few moments, let's turn our thoughts to Psalm 145. This is a psalm of praise and exuberant worship in which David lifts up some aspects of God's divine nature, things he himself discovered to be true about God's character, things that his forefathers also declared to be true. In verse 4 of this psalm, we read this: "One generation commends your works to another. They tell of your mighty acts." Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9 tells us the Israelites had a legal injunction to pass on to the following generations what God had done for them. I do not need to remind you that we don't only teach with our words, especially given the fact that most people only remember 7% of a conversation. But we also teach with our lives. You and I often think of worship as singing, and this psalm is one of praise and worship. However, as Dr. Larry Crabb points out, worship is more than that. This is his definition. Worship means in the middle of life as it is experienced, and I would add even in our COVID-19 season, that you find some way to be caught up in God's character and purpose so that his will becomes central. But let's ask a question. Who nurtured the faith of the women of David's time? Well, the mothers and grandmothers, but also the heroines of past generations. Women like Sarah and Rahab, who are in Hebrews 11, the great chapter of faith. Now, neither of the lives of these women were ideal, but still their lives communicated a message. Earlier, I mentioned Edie. In many respects, her life was not ideal either. She had a difficult and in many ways restrictive marriage. She was married to a war veteran. She endured the deep heartache of childlessness. Yet despite these things, her life echoed a powerful message to me, the very same message that David declares in Psalm 145. So what aspects of God's character had David found to be true? Well, firstly, David had learned for himself that God was great and powerful. Our two Old Testament heroines, Sarah and Rahab, also experienced this. Sarah learned that God had the power to turn back her biological clock. Rahab saw God's power to destroy a city, but in the chaos, save her life. Well, what about Edie, the woman who influenced my life so significantly? She experienced God's power, transforming her life and that of many others. But secondly, in verse 8, David speaks of God's graciousness, his compassion, and rich love. In fact, David quotes from Deuteronomy 34, the words of God's self-revelation to Moses. David goes on to tell us that God saves, he cares, he helps, and he restores. The stories of our Old Testament heroines also declared these truths to the generations that followed them. God remembered Sarah in her infertility. He was faithful to his promise to give her a child. Rahab was saved from death. She was restored and given a new life among God's chosen people. And what about my unofficial mentor, Auntie Edie? She was sustained, she was comforted, and given serenity in the midst of difficulties and heartache. She experienced joy and fulfillment in ministry. And I recall her saying regularly, particularly toward the end of her life, "You know, I never had any children, but I had lots of spiritual children." But thirdly, in verses 17 to 20, David praises God's righteousness and justice. The Living Bible puts it this way: everything God does is right. He does what is best for those who fear him. He sticks by all those who love him. Now, was David naive or unrealistic? Was he simply mouthing cliches? No. David had been through a lot: persecution, times of victory, but also betrayal, loneliness, and fear. He had also experienced the severity of God's judgment. Do you recall the death of his illegitimate love child to Bathsheba? These words were his heartfelt convictions arising from real life experience. But what about Edie, the woman whose life God used to shape mine? Did Edie believe that God always did right? Did she believe he always did what was best for her? Her life said so. She loved the Lord. She was passionate about Scripture. One of my clearest memories is her face glowing when she taught the Bible. I knew she loved God's Word. Edie exhibited no bitterness over her childlessness. Rather, she was able to rejoice with those who were given what she didn't have. And she found incredible happiness in her spiritual children. To all women listening today, not only biological mothers, let me say this as both an encouragement and as a challenge. God has created you with the capacity to mother. He has endowed you with qualities that are in part a reflection of his very own nature. Are you using your influence to birth and nurture Christian faith in others? This morning, let's all ask ourselves, how much do I lift God up to others by sharing the great things he has done for me? Again, let's ask another question. In the midst of everyday life as I currently experience it, is my confidence in God's character and purposes evident? Does it commend him to those coming after me? My name is Lorraine Peffer, and I want to thank you for tuning in to our 96.5 Family Worship segment. If you are looking for an online service during this COVID-19 season, Ashgrove Baptist is streaming theirs at 10 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. each Sunday. Simply log on to ashgrove.org.au. Perhaps you're struggling with life issues. Why not reach out and find out more about Ashgrove Community Care? You can do this on the same website. May God make you a blessing in your spheres of influence this coming week.
96.5's Family Worship, bringing you messages that speak to your head and heart.
96.5 Podcast Production.